Hey guys, welcome to my kitchen. This is a meal prep session just to help you get ahead on your meal prep and make it really nice and easy for you to have healthy meals at the drop of a hat. Because when we're talking about this is going to be about self-care, right? It's about looking after yourself. It's about putting good, nutritious food into you so that you can have the best energy levels. Lots of people hate being in the kitchen, but for me, it's actually one of those things that I do for self-care. I think that being mindful about making your food and making stuff that nourishes your body and tastes good is one of the biggest things of self-care that you can actually do. So I'm going to prepare with you two dishes this morning. So the first one is going to be a nice curry. So there's heaps of taste there. There's lots of options that you can do, and it's a really super simple way of making something in a big batch so that you don't have to make multiple dishes over the week. Now, the second one that I'm going to make for you is a soup, and the soup that I make is always no waste soup. So during the week when I'm preparing stuff, preparing my vegetables, I tend to save all of the offcuts in a little plastic bag in my fridge. And at the end of the week, I'll go and I'll make a soup with all of the offcuts plus some other ingredients to make it taste really, really nice. And I find soups really easy, especially when you're on the run. You can just grab a cup of soup with maybe some keto bread or keto crackers that you like, and it's just a quick way of getting good nutrition into you. Okay, so for the curry, I'm going to use tofu today because a lot of people don't know how to prepare tofu and make it really nice, but you can just as easily do this with cubes of beef, or you can do this with cubes of chicken as well. That's completely up to you. But I thought I'll just show you a nice easy way of being able to prepare tofu so that it actually tastes good. Now the thing about tofu is that it doesn't have a lot of taste. So you have to add taste to tofu to make it really nice. And the other thing about tofu is texture. Now when you're trying to replace meat with a plant-based substance like tofu, it's all about the texture. So what we're going to do is we're going to fry this up in a fry pan until it's really nice and crispy and golden, and then we're going to add that to the curry later. Now you can do that exactly the same with chicken, and of course you can do big batches of chicken in the fry pan, put some of them in the curry, and then put some in a Tupperware container so that you can top your salads with it later as well. Or quickly chop it up for a quick omelette or something like that. I like to prepare ingredients that have multiple uses so that I'm never caught in a hurry when I'm really, really hungry, because that's when you can tend to make really bad meal choices as well. Okay, so I have a block of firm or extra firm tofu because that is the kind of texture that you want for a curry, because you want it to kind of hold. I've drained it, and I just quickly dabbed it off with a clean tea towel so that it's nice and dry, because when it's dry like this, that's when it's going to be able to take all of the flavorings that you put on it. So I'm just going to quickly chop it up into cubes. So they're just like a 1 centimeter dice. So I just chopped it through the middle so that it just falls into cubes straight away. And then I'm just going to go ahead and finish that up, trying not to cut my fingers at the same time. Okay, so then you just need to pop it into a little bowl or a big bowl. Chuck it in. Okay, so when we're thinking about adding flavor to tofu, salt and pepper is always the go-to for me because it's the basis of all flavor that you can put in there as well. Now the other thing that's really nice to add to this is something like soy sauce. I use coconut aminos, which is just really a fancy way of saying soy sauce. And now, as you can see, I did actually put quite a bit of seasoning on there, because that is the only flavor that is in there. Tofu doesn't really taste of anything. So you need to really think about that when you flavor it up. Now you can use soy sauce as well and leave it to marinate for a bit, but you know what? I don't have time to marinate anything, so I'm just going to mix it up with the salt and pepper, and then I'm going to get them into a pan. So my other camera is going to show you what's going on at my stove. So we're going to use a healthy fat here, just to make sure that we're not getting in any artificial seed oils, anything produced in a lab. So options here for you are, you can either use, say, a ghee, a clarified butter, or you can use a coconut oil, avocado oil, which is what I'm using, or you can use like a natural fat like lard or something like that. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop quite a bit into the pan here, and then I'm going to light my stove, and I'm going to let it get a little bit hot already. So I've got it on the big pit here, so that it's going to really. Okay, so we've started to get the pan warm now, and I'm going to start putting the tofu in so that it starts to sizzle. So it's nice and hot, just chuck it in. Now to get the texture that I want, it's going to have to be fried for quite a long time. So I'm going to start on my other dish while I'm doing this, and that is my leftovers soup. Now soup is really, really easy. It's just about getting all of the, just getting everything into the pan and getting it going, and then it just looks after itself. So what you want to have a think about is what flavors do you want in your soup. So I said that it's leftover soup, so I'm just going to go ahead. This is my bag of leftovers that I have. So in there's some scabby looking lettuce leaves that I pulled off the outside of the lettuce. There's some bits of celery from where I've chopped up celery, and there's some zucchini ends and stuff. So that's just going to go straight into the pan like this. It's not on yet or anything. Okay, so just chuck it all in. Now for the major flavor for my soup, I want mushroom today. So let me see if I want brown mushrooms. So I'm going to use half of these mushrooms in the soup and half of the mushrooms in the curry. So I'll just chuck those in like this. Now, incidentally, a really, really easy way to get this done very quickly is to just use some frozen mushroom slices. And you just open up the bag and chuck them in as well. And I use a lot of frozen veg because it's really easy for me to just have it on hand. You don't have to worry about it going bad or anything. And you know, it's still quite good quality as long as you buy the organic stuff, and you know, no waste, which is fantastic. Okay, so I've got my mushrooms in there, and then I want to think about flavoring up my soup. So this is where herbs come into it, and herbs are really, really easy way of adding extra nutrition as well. So I've just got my little herb de Provence. So we're just going to throw that in. Okay, so I've got all of those lovely greens. Oh yeah, and the other thing that I tend to chuck in there as well is when you have a cauliflower, you've got those greens at the back. Now a lot of people think that you need to throw those away, but you don't need to throw them away at all. Actually, they're perfect in soup. So there's a lot of those in there as well. Now in terms of cauliflower is a great way of getting a really creaminess into your soup too, because you can just leave everything all ugly and chopped up in all different kinds of chunks, or not chopped up at all, because we're going to chuck it through the blender later anyway, so no issues there. Now to make soup flavorful, you have to add salt, of course, and I'm going to add salt in the form of stock cubes. Now, you have to be really careful with stock cubes, because stock cubes tend to contain a lot of MSG in them, both natural MSG and also added MSG. So if you buy anything of a conventional brand like Maggi or something like that, then you're going to find that it's got a lot of MSG in it. So I try to go for the natural stock cubes, but you need it because otherwise your soup's not going to taste good anyway. So let me just show you what I use. Okay, so I've got these, they're from Callo. They're an organic French onion, but there's lots of different flavors that you have there. The only one that I wouldn't recommend that you get is the low sodium one, because it's not going to taste salty. And we're going to add two of these to a whole big pot of soup. So that's a big pot there. That's going to serve at least 6 servings of soup. So I'm just going to throw those in, like literally just throw it in. No fuss, no nothing. Okay, so then all we need to do is we need to add liquid to the soup. Now you can add water, but what I do is for my cats, I make them chicken and I end up boiling the chicken. So what we do with that chicken water is we actually drain that off and I use that in my soup because that means that it's got extra nutrients in. But you can just use water. I'm just going to throw stock in. All of the lovely fats from the chicken skin in there as well, because I always use thighs for the cats. Okay, so that's just in, just need to turn it on right now. And the only thing that needs to do is just, if I can get the right hit on, it just needs to boil and that's it. Lid on so that we don't waste any heat, and then that just goes probably in about 30 to 40 minutes. It's done. I'll blitz that up in the high-speed blender, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of heavy whipping cream just to give it some nice fat content, and maybe a little bit of extra salt and pepper, but that will just be to taste. And that's always going to depend on your own taste as well. Okay, so you can see here from my tofu that it's starting to get nice and brown, but we're going to keep on going with this because what you want is for the outside of the tofu to get really crispy-fied so that you've got like a soft center and a crispy outside, and that's what really holds in the curry as well. So let's start off with the curry. I'm going to do that because that soup is absolutely just going to do itself. So now we're going to start with the curry. Now with a curry you always need to have a flavor base, and so I'm just using a Thai Penang curry because I like spicy but I don't like blow your head off spicy. And what this is just some herbs and spices that have been ground into a paste. It doesn't have anything else in there at all. In fact, it's dried red chili, lemongrass, shallot, garlic, salt, kaffir lime skin, galangal, cumin powder, and coriander seed, and that's all that it's got in it. So what you want to do is you want to fry off your Thai curry paste because that's what releases all of the aromas. Now you want to make sure that you do that in a good quality oil. So yet again, I'm going to use some avocado oil, but you can use all of the options that I mentioned before. Coconut oil, which is quite traditional, of course, for Thailand. You can use ghee, which is a clarified butter, or you can use lard or some kind of animal fat. I wouldn't recommend that you use butter just because it's got lots of little bits in it that might burn. So you want to have as clear a fat as you possibly can get because that just means that it's going to stay healthy. So I've just got to cut the corner of this and then I'm going to squeeze it. Now the amount of paste that you use is going to be highly personal, depending on your taste, okay, and how spicy. You can get lots of different curry paste. There's red, there's green. They tend to be a little bit hotter than this one. So with this, I'm gonna squeeze, well, after I put, first I'm gonna put oil in the pan. Okay, there we go. All right, and then I'm gonna squeeze the paste in. Hopefully you can see that properly. Now I'm making a really big curry here. So probably about 6 serves, because Laura and I will eat that over the week. So that's about the amount that I'm going to put in there. Not sure if you can actually see that, but it's about 1/3 of the bag. So then I'm going to turn the heat on here. Okay, and then I'm going to make sure that I keep stirring that, because the last thing you want to do is actually burn that. Doesn't taste very nice if you burn it. Okay, so it's going to take a little bit of time for the pan to get warm, so I'll just leave it like that. And then whilst that's going, I just add as I chop. So I've got my mushrooms here that I washed before. Half of them went into my soup, and now the other half is going to go into my curry. And you want to make sure that, because these are like little sponges, so you want to make sure that they get in there nice and early, because they're going to absorb all of that really nice flavour from the curry paste. So just chop them up roughly. This is the thing, you know, like I'm so no fuss about chopping, because it's just about getting stuff into the pan and cooking up already. Now I can smell the curry paste going already. I'm just going to keep flipping my tofu as well. That's starting to look really good. Okay, so as soon as you start to smell the curry paste, then you can start chucking in your veggies as well, and that's going to prevent everything from burning too. So in go my mushrooms. So next up I've got a courgette or a zucchini here. So that's just going to go really easy. And then this is the end of my zucchini, and this is the other end of my zucchini. So I don't want to put them in my curry, so I'm just going to throw them into my soup tureen at the same time. Okay, so no fuss, no frills, just chopping it up really fast. That's it, little cubes. So about the same size as what I chopped up that tofu to be. Good. All right, and then that goes in as well. Go. Okay, next up we've got some eggplants. So we're just going to take the tops off those. They're probably not that good to have in the soup, so we're going to go without those. Okay, an eggplant is a really good low carb vegetable that adds quite a nice bit of bulk to everything. So, you know, nothing too fancy. Everything is going to be cubed around the same size, and you just keep on adding as you go. So these were on special. They're apparently UAE organic, so that should be nice. I'm just going to chuck those in. Just keep it moving so that it doesn't get too burny. Okay, good. Finish up the other ones. So you can add the kind of vegetables that you like. I mean, other options could also be that you add some capsicums, or you can add some cauliflower. Actually, to be honest with you, a lot of this stuff is stuff that I had delivered last week and I just haven't got around to yet. So it's not looking its best, but that's why a curry is a great way to kind of utilize all of this and give it a new lease on life as well, because I hate to waste stuff. Okay, so that's all looking really, really good. Just going to give it all a stir. Alright, now our tofu, let me just show you on this one, is looking really nice. So I'll just turn off the heat now and just leave it in the pan until I'm ready to add it into the curry. The only thing that I still want to put in the curry is some really healthy greens. So I've got some baby kale. Once again, the baby kale is not the best. It's definitely not something that that lasts really well in the fridge. So it's getting a little bit yellow, but it's going to be fine. It doesn't have really tough stalks because it is a baby kale. So I'm just going to throw that in. Once it's washed, I'll just drain it in here and then I'll throw it in last minute. Maybe the last 5 minutes of cooking, because otherwise it's going to just cook too far. Okay, now just to boost the nutrition a little bit on my curry, I'm going to use some nutritional yeast. Now, nutritional yeast, it's not a massively mainstream thing, but you can get it in all supermarkets now. It came with the vegan trend, but it's a nice way of adding a bit more protein in. Obviously, if you are doing this with chicken, you don't need to do that, but I just add it. I get it from Gibson's and they deliver it with the rest of my veggies, so that's pretty easy. So I chuck a whole bunch of that in as well, just to give it an extra boost, and it gives it a bit of a creaminess as well at the same time, which is really nice. Okay, so that's looking good. I definitely want to fill up this whole pan here, so I'm going to add some. I'm going to add some of this cauliflower too. Now, the other option that I sometimes use, and it's just so that I can hurry up and get on with the rest of my day, is to just chuck cauliflower florets in there from the freezer. That's a really nice, easy way of doing things too. So let me just pull my kale out, and then we're going to do the cauliflower. So no messing around. The ugly bits of the cauliflower, so the cauliflower greens and stuff, are going to go straight into my soup. Also the stalk, even though the stalk is perfectly okay to eat, we just discard it these days. I don't know why we did that. I'm sure that if you went back a couple of years, that people didn't throw anything away. So I'm not quite sure why that happened. So I just break it up with my hands. Nothing fancy. I throw some on the floor as well. That's always fun. Okay, good. Chuck that all in, and then it will go straight into the curry like that. And you don't need to chop it up all nice and fine. The good thing about cauliflower is it's going to fall apart anyway once it all gets cooked in here. So we'll add some liquid to it so that it all cooks up really nicely. So now we can see that our pan's getting nice and full here. Alright, now all the rest of this stuff I'm going to throw in the soup. There we go. Okay, done and in. So the only thing that's left to do with the curry is to put the kale in at the end, but I'm going to do that at the end. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to chuck the tofu in there. So if you have chicken, you can put chicken in there. If you have beef, whatever it is that you want to do. And then the magic of the curry happens whilst it's boiling. So I'm just going to chuck some water in, and then I'm going to put it on just a low flame and just let it go for about 40 minutes, and that should be enough. Maybe even 30 minutes, but you just kind of give it a stir, and you see what it looks like, taste it. You may need to add some more salt to that, but it should be good. And then you've got two really tasty, really yummy go-tos that can sit in your fridge and just be heated up whenever you need some food. So thank you so much for joining me for these two recipes. I will share photos of the done recipe at the end. But I hope you have a great day, and I hope to see you soon.